The Arkham games are some of the most popular and praised video games of all time. The series contains 4 titles from 2 different developers. Okay, if you want to be technical, there's 6 main games if you include Arkham VR and the recently released pile of shit that is Suicide Squad. But I feel comfortable saying that most of us would like to forget that this game even exists. Not only because it disrespects one of the most beloved video game characters and franchises of all time, but Kill the Justice League is completely disconnected from the visuals, themes, writing, and gameplay from 3 of the greatest video games of all time that were developed by Rocksteady. It's a shame that this great studio was clearly forced by their publishers to create a $70 live service title that would print money for Warner Bros. But fortunately, within a couple of weeks, the player base for Suicide Squad is non-existent. And now that the heat has died down on another poorly thrown together quadruple A title, I think now is the perfect time to look back on 3 of the greatest video games of all time. And Arkham Origins. So please enjoy the first part of this Arkham retrospective, where we look back on the game that started it all. Arkham Asylum begins with Batman apprehending the Joker off-screen and returning him to the house for Gotham's criminally insane. The iconic duo was voiced by the late great Kevin Conroy, as well as Mark Hamill, who both voiced these characters in Batman the Animated Series. I don't remember when I learned that the voice of the Joker is the same Jedi Knight who brought balance to the Force, but whenever I discovered that connection, I gained a lot of respect for the talented Mark Hamill. Returning to the game, we are introduced to the Warden of the Asylum, Quincy Sharp, and a notable Arkham guard named Frank Bowles.
Wife and kids, you miss me?
Shut it, clown! A lot of people here really want to talk to you.
Really? I don't mind walking. Not so tight, boys. You'll crease the suit.
Get that filthy degenerate out of here.
Warden, something's not right. I'm going with him.
The first few minutes of gameplay are spent escorting the Joker through the asylum. Not only is this an appropriate time for some opening credits, but it's also an immersive experience as we get to see how the asylum functions before Joker and his goons take control. We also meet side characters that will play a factor at various points throughout the game, like Aaron Cash, an Arkham guard with a hook for a hand. Dr. Penelope Young, who looks terrified to see the Joker, even though every single security guard in the building is aiming a rifle at him. Well, they were, until a Category 9 patient begins to come up the elevator.
At all times.
What's it doing?
I've got your scent, Batman. I will hunt you down.
Get that animal under control!
A toy collar won't stop me from killing you, Batman. I'll rip you apart, eat your bones.
That reminds me. I really need to get me some new
Okay,
shoes.
move up.
You shut up! You shut up! I'm so fucking scared right now, you shut up!
Eventually, you meet the Arkham version of Commissioner Gordon, who plays somewhat of an important role in the story to follow, but ultimately, he doesn't get as much screen time in this game as he does in others. It's at this moment when everything goes to shit. Thanks to this fucking guy. This random security guard tells Batman to step aside, as he will upset the violent inmates in the room ahead. Since he cared so much about the feelings of serial killers, the Joker gets a chance to break free and chokes the security guard to death. Batman leaps into action, but he's not quick enough as the Joker has the upper hand with his girlfriend Harley Quinn controlling the security system.
Come on in.
Welcome to the Madhouse, Batman. I set a trap, and you sprang it gloriously. Now let's get this party.
And then we are thrown into our first combat section of the game. As most of you know by now, Arkham Asylum introduced the free flow combat system, which is easy to learn but challenging to master. Now, I know that corny phrase is thrown around a lot when talking about the combat in these games, but it's true. On the surface, Arkham Asylum's combat seems basic, especially when compared to later games in the series. There's only one attack button, yet the act of fighting never gets old thanks to the hundreds of animations where you will watch Batman punch, kick, knee, and throw himself around the room. Then there's the counter button, which you'll hit whenever you see 3 lightning bolts above an enemy's head. This symbol indicates when an enemy is about to attack Batman, and also allows Batman to deflect their punches or grab their weapons. Each successful strike against an enemy builds up your combo multiplier, which ties directly into how much XP you earn after every combat encounter. Each strike or counter will build up your combo meter, but everything has to be perfect, as missing a counter or taking too long to make your next move will cause the multiplier to restart. The better you do in combat, the higher your combo multiplier, which will lead to you earning even more XP, allowing you to upgrade Batman's health, abilities, and gadgets. Arkham Asylum doesn't have much variety with the enemies, as that is something that will improve with the sequels. You'll mainly fight henchmen who throw fists or use two-handed weapons, but you'll also fight inmates who use knives and those who use electric batons, with the latter two requiring Batman to use a special method to take them out. Isolating every aspect of Arkham Asylum's combat can make the system sound basic, which it is, but the challenge is derived from seeking perfection, as you try not to get hit and achieve the highest combo score possible. Returning to the game, once Batman clears the room, he chases after the Joker but ends up running into Victor Zsasz instead. Zsasz is one of the lesser-known villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery, but just so you know, he is a serial killer who carves tally marks into his body for every person he has killed. Zsasz has an Arkham guard strapped into an electric chair and is threatening to kill him if he sees the Batman. This is when we are introduced to Batman's grappling hook, which we will use throughout the game to get around the asylum. In this instance, we will use the gargoyles in the ceiling to maneuver behind Zsasz and finally take him out.
Someone put this animal back in his cell.
Harley Quinn, also voiced by her animated series actor Arlene Sorkin, shows Batman her newly designed outfit as well as the captured warden. She tells Batman to stop following the Joker and traps him in the current room, but not for long, as Batman can use the vents to traverse around the island.
She has me trapped in this chamber. She never was very bright.
In the next room, there are guards who need to be saved as the Joker has released some of his laughing gas. Wait. It's not called that?
What is that stuff?
Joker toxin. Listen.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
Anyways, Batman busts into the room, saves a couple guards, and if you feel like it, you can kindly help one of Joker's henchmen. After clearing the room, Batman runs down the hall, barges into a room, and attempts to murder the Joker. Turns out the Joker has a little surprise for us. One of his goons hooked up on a new drug called Titan, which turns the user into a monster. Batman hasn't figured it out yet, but Joker has come to the asylum in order to mass-produce the Titan drug and create an army of Titan monsters. This is the first of many, many Titan boss fights. Whenever the Titan monsters scream, that's your cue to throw a batarang and dive out of the way. Afterwards, you can run up and throw hands.
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
For this boss fight in particular, you don't even have to attack the monster, as he'll end up collapsing from a heart attack. Batman lets the Joker get away, because, you know, plot reasons, but the Joker lets Batman in on a little secret. Frank Bowles, an Arkham security guard, is secretly working for the Joker and has captured Commissioner Gordon. Now, our main priority is tracking down and saving the Commissioner. We investigate the scene of the kidnapping and find a flask that belongs to Frank Bowles. Batman can scan the flask using detective mode, which will allow Batman to track down Jim Gordon. The trail leads to an elevator, which Harley Quinn is kind enough to explode for us.
B-Man, Mr. J doesn't want you following us just yet.
Now Batman has to climb up with the help of his grappling hook before we are introduced to the stealth combat tutorial. Before being thrown into our first wide-open stealth encounter, Batman enters a hallway with 3 armed goons, which thankfully are all spaced out, allowing Batman to silently take them down. When I was little, I actually got stuck at this section because I kept sneaking up behind them and punching them, which would result in me getting gunned down. Also, whenever you die in the Arkham games, you'll be presented with one of many death screens. They consist of Batman's villains saying a few lines before being directed to restart the game.
Oblivion. Gotta say, I thought you'd last longer.
I remember falling in love with the Predator gameplay as a kid, because the game really does make you feel like Batman. I'm sorry, I had to, but stealth gameplay in the Arkham series can be really immersive, especially in the Arkham Asylum. The dark and dirty halls and rooms of the asylum serve as an atmospheric backdrop, as Batman takes out enemies from the shadows. But when looking at every aspect of Arkham Asylum, the Predator gameplay is the one thing that hasn't aged the best, and that's because it's the least engaging out of the whole series. Yes, you can get creative with the gadgets and maps that the game throws at you. For example, you can use the line launcher to knock down an enemy through a window. However, it isn't the most practical, as it alerts enemies to your position, and it doesn't serve as an instant takedown. You can use the remote claw to knock enemies over railings, which is both satisfying, but also practical as it serves as an instant takedown. You can also use explosive gel to knock down walls near enemies, which is another instant takedown, and there always happens to be an enemy or two near a wall or a floor that you can use to your advantage. Besides that, you have an inverted takedown and a sonic batarang, which can be used to lure enemies away from groups. However, the most effective method for Predator sections is to fly around the room, using the silent takedown to pick off enemies one by one. Also, detective vision is so overpowered that you will use it all the time to keep track of the positions of enemies. However, that means you'll spend less time looking at the horrific, beautiful art direction that Rocksteady spent the time to create. Halfway through the game, Joker's henchmen start to wear suicide collars. The suicide collars will go off and alert everyone in the room whenever Batman silently takes them down. If the suicide collars were used occasionally, that would be fine, but every single one of Joker's henchmen will wear one of these in the second half of the game, which just feels like a way to artificially increase the length of the game. It becomes even more annoying when Joker's henchmen begin to plant bombs on every single gargoyle in the final stage of the game. I actually like this on paper, as it forces you to get creative with how you maneuver around every Predator arena. However, whenever you silently take down a henchman, you only have a few seconds until the entire room is on your position thanks to the suicide collars. Overall, the Predator gameplay was innovative for its time. However, each sequel that followed would greatly innovate on the stealth gameplay. It's good, it's just not great. Anyways, after taking out all of Joker's goons, we pick back up on the trail until we discover the mutilated body of Frank Bowles.
Joker must have figured out how I was tracking Gordon. Officer Bowles' trail stops here.
This is when our communications are hijacked by the Riddler.
Yes, it is I, Edward Nigma, the Riddler.
The Riddler is arguably the most infamous aspect of the Arkham games, or should I say, his collectibles are. By this point in the story, you should have already discovered one of his trophies. But this serves as our formal introduction, as well as our introduction to another one of Riddler's challenges. Throughout the game, riddles will appear at the top of the screen, which require Batman to scan the environment using detective vision. Here's an example.
But be careful. Don't cut yourself on this sharply observed portrait.
Riddler trophies, riddles, Joker teeth, and more make up 240 different Riddler challenges throughout the game, which sounds like a lot, but is nowhere near the ridiculous level of the future games. After the Riddler's introduction, an Arkham guard calls us to the side, where we can find an exit to the main island of Arkham. Call me crazy, but this game is beautiful. The graphics have aged gracefully for a game that was initially released in 2009. I've replayed Arkham Asylum over a dozen times, but I haven't played the original version since at least 2014. That's when my parents sold my Xbox 360 in order to get the Xbox One, and I wouldn't pick the game back up until 2018 when I finally played the Return to Arkham collection, which is how most of you will play the game now. I'm not alone in having the opinion that the Return to Arkham remasters didn't do a good job at remastering the visuals. Sure, the textures have a higher quality, and the pre-rendered cutscenes that were once super compressed at 720 pixels are now rendered in higher quality. However, if you have a PC, the only reason I would recommend picking up the remastered edition is because it has the Joker challenge maps, which were originally a PlayStation 3 exclusive perk that let you play as the Joker in the challenge maps. It's a fun gimmick, but ultimately the Game of the Year edition on Steam retains the original art design while also boosting the graphics, frame rate, and the particle effects. One of the first things I noticed in my playthrough is the high quality smoke and debris physics. Whenever Batman runs through smoke, the particle effects will react to him in a convincing fashion, which is impressive for a game that was released in 2009 for 7th gen consoles. Every area both inside and outside of the asylum is drowning in atmosphere, and even though the asylum isn't a huge open world to explore, Small Island still has variation in all of its locations. When you first walk out of the asylum, one of the first things you will notice is this gigantic ass moon. Like, this is ridiculous, but I love it. This is the east section of the asylum, containing the Gothic Arkham Mansion and the Botanical Gardens. However, both of these locations are locked down as Arkham East is still in control of the guards.
Stay here and keep a lookout.
Yeah, will do.
While walking around, Batman will get an alert that the Batmobile is being attacked, so we head towards the Arkham North to get revenge on the inmates who trashed Batman's car. Afterwards, Batman grabs some explosive gel out of the trunk of the Batmobile, which will be used throughout the game to break down walls that are blocking a path or hiding a Riddler trophy. Scanning the environment around the Batmobile for clues, Batman discovers Commissioner Gordon's pipe on the ground, which Batman will use to track down his location. The trail leads Batman to Arkham East, but the Joker has locked down this part of the asylum. Batman breaks in through the ceiling and discovers the Joker's goons are gathering up all the doctors in the medical building. After a stealth encounter, Batman leaves the room to save 3 doctors scattered around the medical building. One doctor is locked on a stretcher, which requires Batman to beat up a group of inmates before freeing the doctor. In another section, Batman finds one of the doctors as well as Aaron Cash, the Arkham guard who has a hook for a hand. The two of them are trapped in a room that is covered in gas, requiring Batman to hit the ventilation buttons by using a batarang. There's also this comedic encounter. After freeing Cash and the Doctor, Batman will find Dr. Young, who is trapped in a room with 5 armed guards, who are all thankfully standing in front of vulnerable walls. Returning back to the room with the original stealth encounter, the elevator doors open, which allow Batman to go further into the medical building.
There is no crane. They're all over me. Only Scarecrow.
While moving around in the walls, Batman will see Commissioner Gordon, who will later be found dead in the hallway. Oh, and by the way, Batman's eyes are now red, and things are getting a little spooky. Batman opens the body bags in the middle of the room, which contain his father, mother, and Scarecrow himself. This is the first of 3 Scarecrow encounters in Arkham Asylum, in which all of them take Batman to this otherworldly place which represents his mind. The first section requires Batman to run around Scarecrow while avoiding his deathly gaze, eventually reaching a bat signal which Batman will use to defeat him. The Scarecrow sections are pretty well known at this point, however the first section is incredibly simple and easy to get through. Returning to the hall, Batman learns that it was an Arkham guard who was dead, and not who he thought was Commissioner Gordon. Afterwards, Batman finds both Harley Quinn and Commissioner Gordon. In order to save his friend, Batman will have to take out armed guards without being detected, before crashing through the ceiling to save Jim Gordon.
You took longer than I thought.
He's out of control. He's trying to prove something. I'm not sure I can stop him this time.
The two of them walk downstairs and discover a shriveled up Bane.
I thought he broke out of Blackgate.
Cut me down.
Who did this to you?
Dr. Young, the Bruja. She drained the venom from my blood. Must stop her.
Sorry, Has-Bane. The good doctor won't be a problem much longer. How do you like my puppet? What say we cut him down?
Batman goes on to have a boss fight with Bane, which is a copy and pasted version of the Titan boss fights. Just throw your Batarang, dive out of the way, and cut the tubes that are giving Bane his dose of the Titan formula. Eventually, the room starts to collapse due to Bane running into the walls, so Batman leaves him to die. However, Bane survives, and just before he breaks the bat, Batman fucking murders him.
This time I break you.
After getting Commissioner Gordon off the island, Batman goes to a Batcave that he had built on the island. Once reaching the Batcave, Batman will analyze the Titan formula before grabbing a new gadget, the Batclaw, which can be used to open up new pathways by moving boxes or pulling down vents. Leaving the Batcave, Batman will be forced to make his way through Arkham sewers. One section of the sewer requires Batman to climb his way up without using his Batarang. After making his way up to the surface, Batman heads towards Arkham East, which looks a lot different than before. The inmates have finally taken over this section of the asylum, and something that Rocksteady does a fantastic job with in all 3 of their Batman games is the environmental storytelling. If the player pays attention, they will see dead Arkham guards all over, which are the same guards that he was talking to earlier. With the use of the Batclaw, we now have a way to get into the Arkham Mansion. After swooping in and beating up some thugs, most players will head in this direction, which leads us to the library. On the bottom floor are 2 guards that are strapped to a bomb. In order to save them, Batman will have to climb to the top floor where he will knock this thing down.
1 minute turning to go. Gotta say, I'm getting...
After saving them, Batman will return to the main hall of the mansion, where he will enter a hallway, and the game will introduce the suicide collar. Fucking hate these things. Perfect time to be thrown into a Predator encounter where you can experience the suicide collars for yourself. Eventually, Batman will enter Dr. Young's office, and after he reviews the security footage, Batman will discover that Dr. Young got to the Titan formula before the Joker did. Batman retraces Dr. Young's steps and discovers that she hid the formula in a random book.
Dr. Young's formula.
Great. So does that mean you've stopped Joker?
It's never this simple with him.
Before leaving the library, keyed-eye players will notice gas coming through the vents, which has happened before, right before the first Scarecrow encounter. Exiting the library, Batman will enter an infinite hallway. Soon the Arkham Mansion's walls will transform into Crime Alley, and Batman will turn into his childhood self. After paying our respects to Thomas and Martha Wayne, Batman continues on into the next Scarecrow section.
Call me Jim.
Similar to the first, Batman will run around Scarecrow before reaching a bat signal to defeat him. This time around, there are some combat encounters sprinkled in, where Batman will fight some skeletons, before overcoming Scarecrow's fear toxin for the 2nd time in one night. Waking up in the clock tower, we cut down the bell in order to return to the main hall. Now, a 3rd pathway has opened up, and Batman enters to discover that Victor Zsasz has captured Dr. Young.
Listen to me carefully.
Help
Of course, this situation is easy for Batman as he takes down Zsasz with a batarang. While he's talking to Dr. Young, a bomb goes off.
Oh my god!
Get out of the way!
Poor Dr. Young. Still, you know how Mr. J hates a squealer.
Now, Dr. Young is dead, so the next best thing Batman can do is track down the Warden. Using detective vision, Batman finds some of Warden's blood on the ground, which he can use to track down both the Warden and Harley Quinn. Before leaving the room, you can find one of the most well-hidden and greatest Easter eggs ever created. Coming over to this wall, if you place 3 explosive gels in just the right spot, you'll discover a secret room. But after a couple attempts, you should discover the hidden office. Inside, you can find plans for Arkham City, showing that the developers already had a sequel in mind before Arkham Asylum released. Back to the game, Batman will follow Warden Sharp's blood trail to the penitentiary on the west side of the island. Upon entering the penitentiary, you will be met with this. Chasing Harley Quinn through the penitentiary will lead Batman to finding the Warden in the control room. Upon finding him, Batman will gain access to his security codes, which introduces the cryptographic sequencer, which is a gadget that allows Batman to open up locked doors throughout the asylum. Moments after leaving Warden Sharp, you will discover him directly in front of you in a cell. Look away for a moment and look back to discover the prisoner is now Jim Gordon. This is actually Clayface, and although we don't see him in his natural form just yet, we can use detective mode and see that he has no bones in his body. While Batman is busy with the Warden, Harley Quinn releases Poison Ivy, as well as the crazed inmates that have been locked up in the penitentiary. They're not hard to deal with at all. They'll jump on Batman, which you'll have to counter, before performing a ground takedown. Batman chases Harley Quinn throughout the penitentiary before ending up in a room with electric floors. You will have to take down waves of enemies while also moving around to avoid being electrocuted. Once you defeat all the enemies, you'll watch Batman take down Harley Quinn in a cutscene, before heading to the Botanical Gardens, where Batman discovers Joker's Titan production facility.
Well, look who's discovered our secret lab. Since you've made it this far, let me show you what I've cooked up.
The Joker escapes into the elevator before Batman has to fight 2 Titan bosses at the same time. After defeating them, he will call in the Batwing to deliver a new gadget, the Line Launcher. Batman will use the Line Launcher throughout the game to cross sections of the asylum that he otherwise would not be able to reach by gliding. Batman finds Poison Ivy and asks if she knows how to make an antidote for the Titan formula. She reveals that there is a plant on the island that Batman could find to develop a cure. Just so happens that the plant is in Killer Croc's lair. Batman will have to make his way into the intensive treatment building, where he returns to the first Predator section from the beginning of the game. However, this time around, the Joker's goons have placed mines on the gargoyles that prevent Batman from using them.
No, I'm still up.
This only delays the inevitable. Batman begins to walk down the hallway before the most infamous Scarecrow encounter happens.
Did anyone catch the game last night?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to experience the fake game crash for myself. Instead, I watched a playthrough on YouTube. However, the fake crash still affected me, as I was scared that I broke my grandmother's laptop. This Scarecrow section takes us to the beginning of the game, after faking a game crash. Instead, the roles have now been switched. The Joker is now transporting Batman to the asylum, and while walking through the halls, you can see Commissioner Gordon and other notable characters being escorted by the inmates who now run the asylum. You then switch to Batman as the Joker pulls out his gun and shoots him. The game then displays a fake death screen, which tells you to use the middle stick in order to dodge the Joker's gun. Batman then wakes up in the third Scarecrow section, which he will find several deranged versions of himself, before he takes on multiple waves of enemies, and finally overcomes the last Scarecrow section.
How are you doing this? You've ingested enough toxins to drive 10 men insane. What are you?
When Batman comes back to reality, you will find several inmates as well as a Titan unconscious on the ground, which insinuates that the enemies that Batman fought in the Scarecrow dimension were actually ones he was fighting in real life. The Scarecrow is also trying to go down to Killer Croc's lair in order to spill his fear toxin into the water that will ultimately affect the citizens of Gotham. Arriving in the sewers, Killer Croc decides to help out Batman by jumping the Scarecrow himself. Going deeper into the sewer, Batman discovers Killer Croc's lair, where Batman thinks ahead and places a trap at the entrance. While inside, Batman will have to slowly move throughout the lair in order not to alert Killer Croc. No matter how slow you go, Killer Croc will jump out of the water on several different occasions, which will require Batman to use his Batarang. Batman will collect several samples of the plant before making his escape and using the trap against Killer Croc himself. After the samples have been collected, Batman returns to the Batcave in order to make a cure for the Titan formula. Meanwhile, Poison Ivy, who the Joker injected with Titan earlier, is now getting stronger, and she uses her new powers to destroy the Batcave. Before leaving, Batman upgrades his Batclaw to now have 3 separate lines, which will allow him pull down walls that he otherwise cannot put explosive gel on. In order to return to the surface, Batman has to maneuver his way through the outskirts of the island before returning to the botanical gardens to take down Poison Ivy. The Poison Ivy boss fight is arguably the best boss fight in the game, not because it's good, but because it's creative compared to the other copy and pasted sections. The camera is pushed back in order to see the entire playing field, which will involve Batman avoiding Poison Ivy's attacks on the ground, while also taking down Arkham guards that are being mind-controlled by Poison Ivy. Batman will have to avoid glowing red orbs before throwing Batarang and placing explosive gel on Poison Ivy's ultimate form. Once Batman defeats Poison Ivy, fireworks can be seen in the distance, signaling Batman to the Visitor Center. Upon arriving, Batman will be checked into a party.
If your name's not on the list, you ain't going in. Let's see, A, no, that's not right. So it's B, Bane. Ah, here it is, Batman. Hey, looks like you're the guest of honor. Give him a big welcome, guys!
And will walk down a hallway filled with enemies that won't attack you. Of course we're gonna take them down. Players that pay attention throughout the game will actually notice that the Joker has had his henchmen working on the Visitor Center all night. Throughout the game, the player can take Batman to the Visitor Center on several occasions, in which you can listen to the Joker comment on what has occurred throughout the game.
Always bothering Mr. J with your problems.
At the very end, Batman listens to one more final monologue before the Joker reveals himself.
Surprise!
And he even leaves a little present for us.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Of course, Batman survives and takes down a room of Joker's henchmen and 2 Titan bosses one more time. After defeating the rest of Joker's henchmen and ruining all of his plans, most players would assume that this is the end of the game. However, the Joker ends up shooting Batman with the Titan formula. But since Batman is built different, he uses the power within to hold off the effects of the Titan formula.
The power within. The power within. The power within.
The Joker, who isn't having any fun, decides to use the Titan formula on himself, which initiates the final boss fight of the game, which is just another Titan boss fight like we've had several times throughout the game. Instead, we fight a Titan version of the Joker. The set piece is nice to look at, with it occurring on the roof of the penitentiary. Also, there's a news helicopter that circles the arena, and the Joker will gloat to it whenever he gets the chance. This is Batman's opportunity to pull him down with the backlaw and get some punches in on him. You'll do this 3 times before finishing the game. Although the entire Joker boss fight is a really lame way to end the game, it's still somewhat satisfying to watch Batman take down the Joker with one final explosive punch.
Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
There's one final cutscene involving Jim Gordon narrating how the island is back under control and the Titan inmates are returning back to normal, although some have it worse than others. While talking to Gordon, Batman overhears on the police radio that Harvey Dent is robbing the Bank of Gotham, in which we see Batman jump into action without hesitation. While Batman flies off into the distance, one of 3 cutscenes will play out, which will show a character grabbing a case of Titan, 2 of which will set up sequels with Bane and Scarecrow, which are both confirmed to be alive after we watch one get absolutely smacked with a car and the other get eaten by a 10-foot alligator. The 3rd and final potential cutscene involves Killer Croc, and although he makes an appearance in each of the next 3 sequels, this ending by far is the least impactful canonically, as Killer Croc only makes a cameo in Arkham City, and was only added to Arkham Knight with the Season of Infamy expansion pack. And then that's it for Arkham Asylum's story. Overall, it isn't just one of the best video game stories, but one of the best comic book stories as well. The game has fantastic pacing as you continue to explore new places on the island and continuously receive new gadgets. But after you finish the story, there's still more that the game has to offer. You can actually jump right back into Arkham Asylum to explore the small open world, now with every gadget in the game, which allows you to explore every corner of the island. The only reason why you would do this is to complete the 240 Riddler challenges, which I can happily say that I did for the first time ever in order to make this video. Once all the Riddler challenges are completed, this audio will play.
What? You did it? You must have cheated. There is no way you could have beaten me. Well, you asked for it, Batman. My final challenge for the whole of Gotham is just seconds away. What? Sirens. The police. You cheated, Batman. You couldn't have outsmarted me. Police, open up! No. They should open the door now! No! Down on the ground! Down on the ground! No! Tell me, how did you work out where I was? Do you hear me? I, Edward Nigma,
After that, there's nothing else to do in the empty playground that is Arkham Asylum. Except when you return to the main menu, there's still more. Firstly, you can now access all of the character bios and trophies that you have gained access to after completing all the Riddler challenges. Then you can put your combat and predator skills to the test with the challenge maps. The combat challenges focus on achieving the highest score possible, whereas the predator encounters require you to perform specific takedowns in order to receive all 3 stars. The combat challenges in particular are incredibly addicting, because if you want to achieve all of the challenge map stars, you will need to learn all of Batman's moves in order to 100% complete the game. It will force you to use the gadgets during combat, as well as all of Batman's fighting moves in order to get the highest score possible. And that is all that Arkham Asylum has to offer. The game came out when superhero titles were looked down upon as cheap movie tie-ins that were thrown together in order to make a quick buck. But in 2009, Arkham Asylum changed all of that, not only becoming one of the best superhero video games of all time, but also becoming one of the best video games ever made. Even if my YouTube channel ends up going nowhere, at least I can say that it gave me the motivation to 100% one of my favorite video games ever. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It's been a little bit since my last video, and I won't lie, it'll be a little bit into the second part of the Arkham retrospective. But the next video that I have planned won't take as long as this one did. If you're still here, leave a comment and let me know how you feel about Arkham Asylum, and make sure to have a good day.